Hey everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be discussing why Octane is one of the most popular legends on Apex. Well, it's very interesting because his pick rate has never really dropped lower, and when he was released he was always one of the most popular legends, even after getting nerfed or receiving buffs, or whichever way you have it. Octane happens to be a beloved legend based on speed, momentum, and today what we're going to showcase is why he's so beloved from just gameplay, and we're going to give examples, also provide educational commentary from some of the best movement and mechanical players in the game, which is Leamonhead. So we'll be sure to pause to kind of showcase some of this. Leamonhead is great, and it kind of really highlights the embodiment of what makes him so much fun. Is essentially here already is that stim and that movement. So what we're going to do is we're going to rewind this and talk about the power of the stim, but of course not doing it too much. So when we talk about this stim, even in a fight, it gives you that extra movement and strafe. And one of the biggest things in FPS games that frustrates players is feeling like you're stuck in the mud. Especially this movement that's extremely smooth, bouncing around, jumping around, is always more possible because of Octane. Now you could do this on other legends such as, let's say, Bangalore after you get the speed boost, but being able to be in control of your stim is probably one of the most fun aspects of Octane in general. So we're going to also pay attention of the perks that Leamonhead picks along the way. He picks, looks like he picked, the stim. That's probably the most, that's definitely the most popular one to pick here. And let's talk about that real pick that he decided to go with and why it is more popular. When it comes to grenades, getting hit by grenades you definitely want to avoid, and when you're fast, you don't have to worry too much about it. So picking that stim reduction means that you can keep going faster, essentially, which is one of the most popular things that everyone wants to keep doing. And that timing right there was really lucky, going through the fence and reposition. Even if you get slowed by, let's say, a Watson fence, having that ability is just extremely powerful. And having more stims equals more fun, essentially. I've seen new players that just have an absolute blast on Octane because of this. Because again, movement is probably one of the more fun aspects of Apex Legends. It's very unique, and Octane is definitely able to highlight a lot of that. What you'll notice that Octane is great at doing is repositioning and moving around, and so you always gets that jump and surprise. You'll see that Leamonhead does a lot of movement to throw individual players off, and let's talk about the next most popular thing about Octane, but probably almost the most detrimental, can be the jump pad. So let's talk about why he put the jump pad here. You're probably wondering, why did he throw this down? Well, while he's looting, and we'll take a look at this here, is he wants to have an out. Let's say he gets blasted or starts getting shot at. He has the ability to move and go to his next fight, as well if he gets blasted right immediately. So he's got momentum and he's able to go a certain direction. The downside of this is make sure when you're using the jump pad, if you're on MNK, the benefit of it is being able to control your strafe and move around a bit more. But the biggest downfall is make sure you don't take a straight linear path. If you take a straight linear path, it's always pretty much going to be the elimination of you, essentially. Even stimming while you're healing and then bunny hopping can also be a whole lot of fun on Octane. And even watching Octane gameplay can be a lot more different compared to other legends. Yes, you can super glide on other legends and you can do those things, but seeing them on Octane is just a joy to watch. And I wonder if you guys feel the same way. I kind of see it based on the viewership, but I'm curious from a sore perspective after watching this, if answering the question of why Octane is so fun and impressive, what your thoughts are. Going for armor swaps and being speedy is also a very good tip, especially when you're playing pubs. It saves you a lot of time. Being creative in different angles. Let's talk about the next perk that it looks like he picked there. He went for so going for the double jump pad is going to be a lot more effective on an MK player because you can already pretty much tap straight, but having two, especially when you're trying to gain that movement and trying to traverse the map, is going to be a lot more fun. I would say if you're on controller, it might be a little bit more interesting to go for the other jump or the other perk for tier 2. But for most MNK players, you're definitely going to want to go for the double jump pad. And double jump pad can do a whole lot for you. Remember, be careful not to stim yourself to death, but repositioning after a res, it can be pretty important and very helpful. But always be careful because you'll have to remember that the HP every little bit matters, especially when you're trying to take a fight. And the reason why Leamonhead is going for this is he's trying to get those armor cores and those armor swaps and repositions out and tries to go towards the height. But unfortunately, the jump pad is just not enough. And essentially can reposition and get away and surprise opponents. One of the most fun things is surprising your opponent as an Octane in many different ways, using the jump pad and utilizing the stim to win. Most legends, when you kind of feel like you're stuck in the mud compared to a controller legend, you kind of lose that ability to have that fun. And for players who like that high octane gameplay rather than being more methodical, otherwise Octane is definitely the legend that you're not going to want to play as much, especially if you want to be more methodical with a controller-based legend. But I really feel like the player base overall enjoys more of this momentum and movement from Octane. So let's go to skip ahead, and we're going to go to the next moment here. So after the res, because of the wingman does so much damage, even jump padding, that movement was actually insane right there. Because he utilized the movement, let's talk about this real quick. After the res, another team does engage because they hear the res. One interesting thing is that you can always manipulate the movement. You're going to see this here on this height, and is able to get himself right up top. Because the jump pad is pushing so high up, then he uses a strafe to get above. So there's always that fun, unique movement that you can do with the jump pad and do it so consistently, rather than always having to wait for a cooldown, which also makes it a lot more fun, especially when let's say you don't get it right off the rip. It does help to just keep practicing it and doing it and doing it and doing it, even though the movement can sometimes be predictable. It's a very clean fight from them. The wingman is absolutely busted. You'll notice that Octanes all tend to run very aggressive weaponry, so anything that's more close range, anything from a SMG, from an AR, and of course, wingman and shotgun are always going to be great loadouts when it comes to Octane. Not saying you can't run a sniper. There's nothing wrong with running a sniper, but the downside there, of course, is that you're going to always want to get close and personal, and you have movement to get you to close that gap. So maximize it with your loadout. As they rotate, they're looking for more encounters. One of the biggest things that you'll see from Octane is that they're going to be the first one in and probably the first one out. And the reason why is that they have the ability to reposition and get out of an encounter. And that's probably one of the biggest tips I can provide. If your Octane goes in, remember that they have the ability to get out versus you may not have the ability to get out. So let them kind of traverse, look for the lay of the land, and kind of scout ahead, which is what we see Leamonhead doing here. But he's able to seamlessly get in and out of situations. So you might be frustrated if you're watching this with an Octane. Kind of let them do Octane things, such as moving around, because they have the ability to do so. Remember, if they don't have a jump pad and they stim away, you may be caught out and alone in your encounter and fight. So just be mindful when you play with other Octanes that that's probably what is going to occur. Let's go to skip here. I believe this is going to be where the end fight takes place, and we're going to see non-stop eliminations for Leamonhead. You're probably wondering, what role does Octane really fill? I think this is probably one of the most simplistic answers. You'll notice here, even from where the teammates are, is entry fragging. Being the first one into the fight. Octane is not a support legend, is not the second individual to get into the fight. He's always going to be the first individual. Octane can also play a bit more off angle and kind of flex. The last roles that you want are support and anchor. You don't want an Octane just standing out in the back, holding a position, because a lot of other legends such as Caustic or any other legend really is going to be able to do it a lot more. One thing you'll notice from his positioning right here that's really smart and that you can step away from most Octanes, they always forget this. Positioning is key. Even if you are a speed demon, notice at this angle he keeps his hitbox as small as possible, and the other Octane has a harder time winning the fight. So remember, keep an eye on your hitbox in an encounter so you can win these 1v3s, and so you can get out of a really nasty spot. Leamonhead is really great when it comes to his positioning, and he's very self-aware whether he's setting himself up for success or not. So a fantastic tip and reminder for all players that play Octane that you're definitely going to want to do this a lot more. Let's go and skip ahead into the next encounter. Now, setting up all those jump pads can be a benefit for you, but also can be a benefit for your opponent. So you'll notice that this jump pad that was placed by the other Octane, it definitely benefits him in this scenario. So be very mindful where you place your jump pads. While it can be very popular for Octane to be a pick, it can also be very detrimental to your team if you're trying to reposition and get away. I think one of the scariest things is hearing a Revenant tactical as well as an Octane jump pad towards you, and you know that you're never getting away. Octane can be one of the legends that can also get in and out of a fight really effectively. So if your team does lose the encounter, they can definitely reposition and succeed more where others cannot. There's only 4 squads remaining, and essentially they control the lobby and space. They don't necessarily have to hold. They can keep clearing their backs and moving to other areas. So if you happen to be a newer player and you get frustrated from this playstyle, and it seems like they're just pushing everything, the logic behind here is that as you clear your back, you know that nobody's going to flank you. Your goal is to always be on the move and clear out angles, so you're never surprised by an encounter. Good movement to avoid the fuse ultimate here as well. Because he had the movement there, he's able to avoid that fuse ultimate and reposition, and got him pretty much the net win there. So with only 2 encounters left, let's go and take a look at those. Knowing where you place your jump pad is very important, because this is also giving the ability to get in and out. You'll notice just based on the res, even though he already placed it from earlier, that placement can be utilized to go right back into an encounter. Getting the jump on the opponents is really key here, and he gets a jump. Very good cleanup. from the squad here, and they're able to reposition and succeed. Usually when you have this strong of an advantage, this is why you keep pushing, because you got a clean 3v2 and you out armor individuals because of your pacing. Pacing is very important when it comes to Octane gameplay as well. You don't necessarily always want to be slow and methodical, but you want to level up those armors and keep doing as much damage and scouting. Pretty much what Leamonhead is doing here. This does change when you're playing ranked, unfortunately, but you have to be sure that your teammates are able to support the main player, essentially, whoever's going to be entry frag, which is what good Octanes always tend to do. Sky nades are fantastic for entry here. Massive damage. Now he can use the bubble against the Gibraltar. And closing the gap. Here's a good example of having the stim and being able to close the gap and move forward on the fight, but also go for a flank. Very positive movement and surprises that opponent. And there's only just one more team remaining. So let's go and skip away to that one last team, and let's take a look at that encounter. Seeing an Octane versus the Octane just for the ending here. This is the last fight pretty much. And you can see just how hard, even for an Octane, it is to chase one another and their movement. And amazing shot with the wingman right there at the end. So if you have any questions, let us know down below. Let us know if you enjoy Leamonhead's gameplay, if you enjoy playing Octane, and answering the question of why he is so popular. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys all in the next one.